I used to always say, I have to see justice on this side. But about a year or two in, I finally woke up and said, Dawn, you're going to get to see Chance again, and whoever hurt him is not going to get to, because they're not going to the same place.
You're listening to Keeping the Light On, Nebraska's Missing Persons podcast, where we highlight the stories of missing persons in Nebraska. I'm Joshua Kangley, and in this season, we've been shining a light on Chance Englebert, who went missing July 6, 2019. His remains were found while in the middle of our story, and though he is found, a mother still has questions and still needs her boy home. To give time and space, I waited until after the holidays to conclude. Please listen with an open heart and mind as you'll hear Dawn speak, a mother's voice. Now, the conclusion of Season 2, Chance Englebert. Chapter 2, The Heart of a Cowboy, was published September 15th, last year, 2025. And in that episode, I talked to Dawn, Chance's mother, and we were just getting into the season, just beginning to tell the story of Chance Englebert. Then, less than a month later, we all heard the news. Remains were found near the Scottsbluff Monument. And then in November, finally confirmed it was Chance. In this episode, I speak with Dawn again, and I waited until after the holidays to give Dawn some time to see if she'd like to speak with me again. And as always, as Dawn is, happy to speak with me. And I have to say here how much I appreciate that. I've been blown away by Dawn's resilience, her strength throughout all of this. And it's important to me to give Dawn her voice in this story. I think it's often forgotten as we hear these stories on different podcasts or in the news that these are real people. These are real families going through what I consider to be the worst nightmare any parent could go through. And as I'm doing these stories, shining a light on these cases, I hope that light also hits on the fact that we can never forget these are real people. Dawn is a mother who for over 6 years was wondering what happened to her son. And throughout that process, had to deal with social media, frustrations about the communication from law enforcement, and the fact that even though Chance has been found, Dawn still doesn't have her son back home. And as a parent myself, I think it's a heartbreaking piece of this story. There's no doubt Dawn and her family are strong, but they're also human. And besides highlighting the stories of missing people with the intent to keep their name out there, I also hope that lessons can be learned through these stories about how we can do better as a community, what we can do better in the efforts of both finding the missing person and supporting that person's family, friends, and the community. Because if any of us were going through the same thing that Dawn has been going through, we would all want that. And as I've said from the very beginning, I believe every missing person deserves to be found, and that family, friends, and communities deserve real answers. So as I finish, at least for now, Season 2 of the Chance Englebert story, I want you to hear Dawn's voice. Because in the stories of the missing, we often focus on the search, the questions, the timelines, the unknowns. But behind every search is a mother who wakes up every day carrying hope, fear, love, and resilience all at once. This final chapter isn't about what was found. It's about what was never lost. And today, we hold space for Dawn Englebert, Chance's mother, for her strength, for her voice, and for the light she never stopped holding for her son. Here is Chapter 3, Holding the Light for Chance. Dawn Englebert speaks. Dawn let me know right away, anticipating what I'd ask about how she's doing.
But that will be one of the things. If you ask how I'm doing, I am so scatterbrained and can't stay focused for anything anymore.
Since Chance's remains were found, many have undoubtedly said that they are at least grateful he's found. Maybe we say that out of instinct, not knowing what else to say. Maybe that's an easy thing for us to say. But in Dawn's case, it's bittersweet because, yes, he's found. But because of how next of kin works, she doesn't have Chance home. And right away, I'm hit with this realization and the impact this has on Dawn. As I said what everyone else said, I'm glad at least he's found.
My thing is, when people say they're happy that he was found, it's really hard for me to know how to react because honestly, I'm at that point. I almost wish that he wouldn't have been found because I don't know where he is. I still don't know where he is.
What Dawn means here is she doesn't have Chance, his remains. And Dawn, as a mother, you can imagine, wants her boy home with her. But since she was not next of kin, he went to Bailey.
He was released on Wednesday before Thanksgiving to his wife.
Now, like many, I don't know next of kin laws or how that all works. I assumed, like everybody else did, I think, that Bailey and Chance were divorced by now. But that doesn't seem to be the case. And even if they were, Chance's son Banks would then be next of kin, which Bailey would still get Chance.
I think they thought she was remarried because the rumors are, which I'm sure they're true, is that she is with another man and has a new baby. So they just assumed she was married. And as far as we could tell up until all this happened, he would have to be petitioned the courts to be declared deceased, or she would have to ask the courts to grant her a divorce. And none of that had ever happened. So she would be the next of kin. Also, I've learned that even if she had remarried, Banks would be the next of kin, which she is his guardianship. So her and Banks still would have got him.
Another heartbreaking thing in the story is how we all found out, how Dawn and her family found out. She explains.
I had just answered the phone. I was walking out of work when which is yet again another investigator that nobody told us about, called and explained who he was. And before he could even get out of exactly why he was calling, granted, I understood why, my phone was going off in the background like crazy. And I finally said, just a moment, sir. He had hung up with her and he called me right back, and she called and had it already put on Facebook. So my mother, my husband, and both boys found out on Facebook before I even got told by the police department. That one hurt. That one hurt again. So that's how they all found out. And I said, well, I guess I know why you're calling, because it's already all over Facebook. Because my mom texted and said, honey, where are you? Are you okay? And I knew then she'd known. And somebody sent me a screenshot of what they had put on that Daddy, Where Are You page.
An additional blow came to the family was when they did get the call, they were not all together at the same time to be there for each other, to support and to process this together.
When we got the call in October, unfortunately, Everett found out East River all by himself. Miles was in the middle of North Dakota by himself trying to get a vehicle bought. My youngest, Clay, was home alone with his two children. His wife was out hunting. And so, unfortunately, we were all separate in different places. And once again, social media took over on that before I could get our family together to let them know that remains were found and that we were sure it was going to be Chance.
Like many of you listening, I received messages about the remains being found. Someone had posted online and it wasn't Dawn. And if you're also like me, I was waiting for something official, something from Dawn. For me, I knew I wasn't going to publish anything unless Dawn confirmed it. She talks about that moment, needing time for herself and the family to process the news before she could even think about speaking publicly herself.
Yep, I waited as long as I could. I just wasn't ready to do it, but I had so many people calling all of us and messaging us and said they're not going to believe it until they hear it from us. And that's when I just like, I might as well just let them know and just say I'm just not ready to talk to anybody about it. And so I want to get through the holidays and after the first of the year, and then decide what we're going to do and start doing the interviews again.
I have to say, so many were tight-lipped and waiting for Dawn. To me, that speaks to the amount of respect and grace the online community supporting Chance and his family have. We were all waiting for Dawn's word. I asked her what her thoughts were on this, the aspect of social media, and how she felt about this.
Social media is really, it's good and bad. And the support that we have and the friendships that we have made this last 6 years.
And it's here, as Dawn predicted, I asked how she and her family were holding up because we all care, and she's honest about it.
I think we're just faking it still. I think we all knew it was coming, but we just pretend like it didn't happen. So I don't know how we're holding up.
She does acknowledge something here, that there is a part of this that is over, and that's the worrying, the waiting for that call. At least that's over.
The only thing I think I don't have to get sick every time I see a 308 number call anymore. I don't have to worry like, okay, I'm going to be gone for a few days. Am I going to get the call then? Or is ever going to get the call then? That part is over at least.
I'm a big supporter of law enforcement. I try not to criticize, but I wanted to know from Dawn's point of view how communication has been throughout all of this with law enforcement. And again, please understand that I realize that law enforcement can only do so much, can only say so much. I get that, and for good reason. But again, I wanted Dawn's side.
The first few months was good, and then it just was horrible. Not good at all. I do feel like this gentleman that is now in place, I wish I would have had him the last couple of years. Although I've only talked to him now twice since he called the first night. Then I called him back a couple of days later and asked if I could at least get his cell phone back because that is mine. I pay the bill on it, but I couldn't get that either. So none of his items are going to be released because they feel like it's a good chance it could go to the grand jury, which that just makes no sense to me. I'm like, you've already said it's been an accident. You already are stating this is what happened. And he said, well, any Tom, Dick, and Harry can say they don't believe this and ask for it to go to a grand jury. I'm kind of thinking that considering they won't release anything, I don't know how many people has requested the autopsy, requested all the reports, the missing persons report, all of that. Everybody's been rejected. No, nothing is going to be released to anybody.
That is something remarkable in this case. And it tells me it's not only Dawn that has questions. In fact, many people who are not satisfied with this being ruled as an accident are requesting documents, asking questions. So it's a good possibility this could go to a grand jury. And I think law enforcement knows this as well. You heard her mention a cell phone. So I asked what other items were found that she knows of.
So I guess his cell phone was found, his pocket knife, his chapstick, his wedding ring, and one shoe was they knew 100% it was his shoe. The other shoe had quite deteriorated. A portion of his shirt and majority of his belt. Because the belt was partially buried. The jean had deteriorated. There was nothing left of the backside of his jeans. And then from what I found out in November, then like his pockets were still there and his zipper. But most of all the jean had deteriorated in the sun and mud. They're saying that he was probably should have been completely buried that night from the mud and the rain. So I'm like, so he walked up there in a rainstorm in the dark, fell to his death, and was buried all in the same night.
Those people I mentioned earlier, asking questions, not satisfied. One of them is the private investigator who's been working with Dawn on Chance's case. He's been a true advocate for Chance and the truth. Here, Dawn talks about his request for the records and what they're planning to do next. She also mentioned her thoughts about what the police think.
He requested stuff, and when he got basically told no, actually, they kind of pretended like they didn't get his request. And I don't know if he ever did officially get that letter yet saying, no, he can't have it. It's hard to believe it's already past Christmas and in the middle of January, but I do feel that Ryan and I will get together here soon and decide what is our next goal, because none of us feel that any of this was handled right. There's no way he just casually walked up there thinking it was going to be a shortcut to Torrington. And that's what I'm being told by both Eads and Holcomb.
They're saying that they think he was doing a shortcut to Torrington?
Yeah. He just slipped in the mud and fell to his death. No, I said he was pushed off the top. And Eads said, oh, Dawn, there's no proof of that. I said, then show me the proof of what you think. Well, that's the only thing that's feasible. There's no way anybody would have packed his body in there. He was too big of a man. I said, how do you know he got there that night? How do you know he wasn't just dropped there a year or two ago? Everybody says that I've talked to in law enforcement says that they are all 100% sure that he got up where he was at to fall to his death on his own 2 feet at his own will.
Dawn then reminds us all of what Chance wanted and what he was set out to do that evening, to walk home, taking the highway to Torrington until someone could meet him. And he didn't need maps to find his way. He knew his way. So she doesn't understand how he would end up at that monument.
When you tell people that you're going to walk to Torrington and I'll meet you, where everybody keeps getting the confusion, because he said, I'm taking the ditch to Torrington. That's kind of slang for us, follow the highway. Why would he say, I'll meet you on my way to Torrington while you're walking on a highway and then decide to go 5 to 6 blocks off the highway and up a monument to go around it that way instead of staying on the highway? That's what he told his friends. I'll meet you on my way to Torrington. A lot of people think that he was looking at his phone at maps. Chance knew his way around Scotts Bluff well enough to get to Torrington. Mm-hmm. He wouldn't have been looking at maps. He wouldn't have been looking for a shortcut to Torrington on maps. He'd already told Matt, I'll meet you. I'm taking the ditch to Torrington. I think Bailey kept texting him or calling him. I know that his Aunt Katie and his dad would have called him right around that 7:45, 8 o'clock range. I'm sure he was just looking at his phone and thought, and put it back in his pocket. He was not looking at a GPS how to get to Torrington. He went to school in Cheyenne. They rodeoed in Torrington. They rodeoed in Chadron was the two main. So they drove that. He knew that. So, he wasn't overly familiar with Scotts Bluff. He didn't know a lot of people in Scotts Bluff, but he knew well enough to how to get to Torrington.
So Dawn, like many, simply do not understand how he would end up at that monument. She also wonders why the dogs didn't alert to him when they were out in that area.
The dogs were right up in that area first few days. I was told, probably the reason the dogs didn't have anything is it's a really bad rattlesnake area and they were protecting the dogs. And I said, well, I totally get that, but those dogs would have went nuts and you guys would have figured out a way to safely figure out why they were going nuts.
I asked her just how close the dogs were to that monument, to where Chance's remains were ultimately found. She also mentions here the proximity of residential areas and that her son Miles was actually searching on horseback in that area as well.
I think right in there. I don't know about the map looking without being actually there, but even you could probably see the residential area from where he was at. There's people that walk that all the time. And I don't think it's right where he was found. The following week, Miles was up with another guy on horseback. Up close, as close to the monument as you can get without getting in trouble, because you got to be really careful where you do drones and horses and that. And what's odd about this is Miles sent me a Snapchat saying, I don't know why I'm up here. There's no way in the F my brother would have walked up here. And wow. He was up on top looking down. And to now that's in the similar area he was at. We knew, Miles knew then he wouldn't have He's like, he wouldn't have walked up this even hunting a mountain lion. It's a rugged, horrible country.
And here, Dawn brings up a harsh reality, and in cases like this, as they are searching for chance, something they may need to pay attention to, and how it seems to her that no matter what she tries to bring up, there always seems to be an answer for everything.
We had said that week, my husband finally said, okay, not to be morbid, but we have to think about this, guys. Dead or alive, the birds are going to be circling him. So as everybody else is looking down, we need to start driving around looking up. And I brought that up to investigator Holcomb, and he said that he was too buried for the birds to have found him. I said, even in that first day or two, and that's when he said yes. They have everything I asked, they have an answer to cover it.
A mother just wanting answers. I think we can all take a moment to understand that. I asked Dawn if she's had any contact with Bailey at all over this time.
No. Because she was a part of our family and we loved her. And then I don't know what happened. I believe she has me blocked. I accidentally messaged her, 3-4 years ago. I went to her message to get the ring video. And when I went to send it to the PI, I said, this is one that they believe has been altered. It's all crazy. And she wrote back, because I accidentally sent it to her instead of the PI. And she said, the only reason it's crazy is because you are the crazy mother that can't understand. And so much more else was said. And I said, I am so sorry, Bailey. I did not mean to reach out to you. And I promise this will never happen again. And she wrote back and said, good.
This gets us into the ring camera footage that she also isn't so sure about.
The doorbell ring. So much has been made up about that I don't know what's true or not true anymore. So if you see that, that's where he would have either turned to go to Owl Road, or he would have kept on that road and gone straight up towards the monument. There was a lot of activity and hit on Owl Road. So why was he clear out on Owl Road, but yet clear back up onto the monument? And we were there when the dogs hit. When we got to town Monday, my husband and Miles was out driving around, and he called me and he said, I think they found him. And every ambulance, cop, fire truck, everything was right there on Owl Road. And they got a hit from the dog and they walked it and they never found anything. So that's why we always assumed he was probably more in that Owl Road area.
So there was scent picked up from dogs. A lot of activity, in fact, as Dawn described, on Owl Road. So what was happening on Owl Road that night? Remember when I talked to the private investigator? Remember what he said?
At one time, and we don't know if it was Monday or Tuesday, we believe it was Monday, right there at the intersection of Owl Road and Five Rocks Road, where the truck and trailer was seen and where the two girls were running, the canines that were searching had a heavy hit in that area for chance or for his scent.
I asked Dawn how far away from the monument was this scent activity the dogs were picking up on Owl Road?
Like 6 blocks. I can't wait to be able to get down there and see, because some people say from where Owl Road and where he was last seen at, that he would have had to probably cross like a marsh of like icky, wet, muddy water. Why would he have done that? Or went over a canal even. But then Gearing PD makes it sound like, no, he just went up Stable Club Road and up into the monument and was thinking it would take him on the backside on Torrington side. But that doesn't make sense. 8 o'clock with a storm rolling in, you're not going to pick that way to go. I just don't think he walked there on his own 2 feet willingly. And I don't think he was there that week that we were searching. I said I think he was either chased there or dumped there. And I was told no. There's no evidence of either one. But it's just hard to keep fighting and prove that. Like, I just think we needed new eyes and new people in to take over this case right after it started. I used to always say, I have to see justice on this side. But about a year or two in, I finally woke up and said, Dawn, you're going to get to see Chance again. And whoever hurt him is not going to get to, because they're not going to the same place.
How did Chance get there? Did he walk up there that night? Did an accident happen and he was put there unwillingly? Any of that, I don't know. But for Dawn, I hope the truth is revealed. One thing I do know is that there are so many people supporting Dawn and searching for truth. And to me, that says a lot about humanity, the true core of humanity. If the people are not satisfied, then we must seek and lift voices until the truth shines. There is nothing wrong with asking questions and wanting that truth. I asked Dawn what Chance would be thinking about all the support from people all over.
He would be so shocked. He would be so embarrassed with the good and the bad drama. He would be so humbled to think, why me? Why would anybody care? But he would be the kid that would do it for anybody else.
Like I said, I wanted to make sure Dawn had her voice in this story. And so I asked her what she wanted everybody to know.
I guess back to the same thing. Let's just stay kind and find the answers. Keep praying for him. Yep. And he loved that little boy so much. That's one thing I want. Make sure Banks knows that.
So Banks, if you ever listen to this one day, know your dad loved you and he was a good man. And though he's not here with us, as we all want him to be, you can hold him in your heart and carry him with you. I have a feeling you're going to grow up a good man too. The other thing I know in all of this is Dawn needs Chance back home. And I pray one day that can happen. Chance was a good man. He was a great father, and he loved his son, Banks. He loved the ranch. And as his mother said, he should be here right now. And though a bright light is gone too soon, all of us together, all of us who have been touched by Chance and his family, we can hold that light and honor Chance by being the best versions of ourselves and be a bright light for others. Imagine what all of us can do together. Bright lights, as Chance was, shining for others who need it. We can do that for Chance. We can do that for his family. I want to thank you all for listening, for helping me keep the light on for Chance Englebert this season. I want to thank you for supporting Dawn and her family. As she said, please keep the kindness going. Please keep the prayers going. And please keep the search for truth going. Lightkeepers, you have been amazing, and I could not be doing this without you. Together, we shine the light on, and you can help in your own way by liking, subscribing to wherever you like to listen to podcasts, leaving a review, telling me your comments, asking questions, sharing this story out there so more and more people can hear these stories, keeping the light on their names. Thank you again, Dawn, for your time and trust and talking with me during this episode. You are a true guiding light. For now, that will do it for season 2, Chance Englebert. But I remain committed to keeping the light on and being here to support in any way I can. Stay tuned for season 3 coming soon, where I shine a light, a big, bright light, on one of Nebraska's most mysterious disappearances, and you can help solve it. Keeping the Light On, Nebraska's Missing Persons Podcast, is a Guiding Lights Network podcast, hosted by Josh Kangley.